From there, he set out and went away to the region of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know he was there. Yet he could not escape notice. But a woman whose little daughter had an unclean spirit immediately heard about him, and she came and bowed down at his feet. Now the woman was a Gentile, of Syrophoenician origin. She begged him to cast the demon out of her daughter. He said to her, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." But she answered him, "Sir, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." Then he said to her, "For saying that, you may go. The demon has left your daughter." So she went home, found the child lying on the bed, and the demon gone. Mark 7:24-30. I love the story of the Syrophoenician woman, even though there is a lot about this story that we should find disturbing. Many of us have a hard time reconciling why Jesus would treat a woman who's clearly in distress so callously. Even if you don't have any social context of their exchange, it's difficult to imagine that a loving Savior, God with us, the Word incarnate, will call a woman who's seeking help for her daughter a dog. A lot of us would rather rationalize or explain away Jesus' actions. Oh, he's trying to prove a point. He didn't really mean it. Things like that. Some scholars have suggested that Jesus was teasing the woman, as if that somehow takes away the sting of her cries for help being met with an insult. Others have suggested that Jesus simply made a mistake. He did a bad thing. Well, if you understand Jesus as this Savior who can do no wrong, in other words, if you have what scholars call a high Christology, that explanation probably doesn't sit well with you either. It's important to understand the nature of Jesus' insult toward this woman. Jesus' social identity is that of a first-century Jew who hailed from Palestine. That's how he and his disciples understood themselves. The setting of this story is the region of Tyre, Gentile country. This is Gentile territory, and they understood Gentiles to be dogs. Calling someone a dog is bad enough on its own, but consider for a moment that to Jews, dogs were unclean animals because they're scavengers. They aren't these beloved household family pets. They are dirty. They're untouchable. They're unwanted. This is a slur. With one word, Jesus likens this poor, vulnerable woman to something that is unclean and untouchable. It is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs. He's othering her. Not at all unlike those who shared his social identity. This is a classic example of explicit othering. If she were viewed as a fellow, as an equal, her pleas for help would have been met much, much differently. But back to why I love the Syrophoenician woman. I love her because she refuses to be othered. We don't need to try to rationalize or explain away Jesus' actions because Jesus is not our teacher in this passage. She is. She is the one who stands up for herself and for her daughter in the face of a nasty, racist, and xenophobic slur. Whether she is understood as a child or a dog, one thing is for certain. She is still at the table. In that regard, she shares the same literal social location as anyone else who's eating. She knows who she is. And in her grief, she somehow manages to Brer Rabbit her way into getting justice for her daughter and getting Jesus to agree to her petition. She uses his own logic and the rules put in place by the dominant social group in the situation to her own advantage. She's my hero and our teacher. I don't know if what she said swayed Jesus or if he had already intended to grant her petition, or maybe he was just dumbfounded or maybe even impressed. But whatever the reason, What she said elicited an action from him. For saying that, you may go. The demon has left your daughter. Notice that the demon has not left a puppy. He's left a child. Educator Paulo Freire shared in his book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, only power that springs forth from the weakness of the oppressed will be sufficiently strong to free both. In other words, those who are oppressed create knowledge along with the oppressor. You cannot learn all that you need to learn, and none of us can walk into our freedom without listening to the voices of the other. So I hope you're blessed enough to find someone to walk into that freedom with.